secret for a long time. Now they're out. What did we learn from them?
I think two big takeaways. One is that Mr. Comey has been very spare with the truth, in that when you read through these, it's clear that the context changes a lot of his concerns. So, for instance, Mr. Comey was very concerned that Trump had demanded his loyalty. He was very concerned that Trump had asked to let the issue of General Flynn go. But when you read through these, you find out that those loyalty discussions were in part related to Mr. McCabe, who we mentioned in the opening, the fact that Mr. Trump had been very rough on him during the election season. He was worried that there might be bad blood there. And the Flynn one also making his case for why he didn't think that General Flynn had done anything wrong.
Okay,
that changes things.
All right, so what's your second point? You said that was one thing we learned. What's the other point?
I think, the second thing is you've got to ask here, what was the basis for a special counsel? Because there's not a lot there, even in all of these long memos.
Jason.
Well, my take is that we're not learning a lot here, either from the book or from the memos. He testified before Congress saying a lot of this. A lot of this has already been reported. A lot of the interviews I've been watching with Comey is him telling the interviewer, I can't really talk about that. It's classified. And the back and forth is going like that. So, we still want to know why Comey relied on a Steele dossier that he knew was unverified,
right,
and that was financed by the Clinton Foundation. We haven't gotten any answers about that yet. So there are answers that we're looking for, but he hasn't been providing them, at least so far in these interviews he's given, and largely he's saying it's because this is classified.
Dan, what about that? I have a similar reaction to Jason, that just didn't advance the ball all that much beyond what we knew. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, one thing we can say that is, if the idea at the center of this is that the president committed obstruction of justice, this will be one of the weakest obstruction cases ever brought, if the basis is inside these memos. One other important thing, though, Paul, what we now have sort of identified is that James Comey told President Trump perhaps 3 times, it says in these memos, that Mr. Trump was not a target of the investigation. He did say that there was an investigation going into whether the Trump campaign had involvement with the Russians, but Mr. Trump was not a target. The thing that Trump kept asking Comey to say.
Publicly, yeah.
In all the reporting from that January forward, the press has combined these two things into a single idea that Donald Trump himself would be implicated in this. That is a very important distinction, and Mr. Comey refused to make it clear. I think Trump was entitled to be upset about the fact that distinction wasn't getting out there.
And on the obstruction point, Jason, I think that if you read these memos, actually,